Fabulous and vibrant indeed. Let's speak more about this production. Bring in Phillip Miller, who is the music composer, I understand, of this production, amongst many other roles I'm sure that you play. Phillip, it's great to have you on the program. Thanks very much indeed for popping by.
Thank you, Ayanta. Yes, well, this is a 3-year project of passion, a real hard project.
Yeah.
I've been wanting to make something that, one, celebrates the life of Simon Nkoli, who, in fact, is not so well known, and as a hero of both the struggle, the anti-apartheid struggle, but also of gay rights. He needs more to be celebrated and for people to learn, especially young people,
right,
to learn about him.
Absolutely, and that's exactly where I was hoping we'd start. I mean, there's so much more else about the glitz and glamour and the performance that we'll speak about, but at the heart of this is a story of an individual who, like many others, paid a very heavy price for where we are today, but lived at such an interesting and complex intersection for that time. To be an activist against apartheid and a gay rights activist openly at that was no small feat.
Absolutely not. The opera, the project, actually deals with those trials that he had to go through. Simon was, in fact, one of the leading members of COSAS. Even his co-students at that time, so we're talking in the 1980s, really, and late 70s, there was homophobia towards him. And then when he was part of the Delmas treason trial with the 22 or 21 other accused, again, whilst he was in prison, he had to also deal with a certain amount of homophobia and prejudice. But because he was such a fantastic, I knew him a little bit. He was what we call in our opera fabulous and fierce.
Right. And
the two stand really close together. That, in fact, by the time everyone left jail after 3 years, everyone understood how important the important thing of the intersectionality, as you've said, between gay rights and other forms of important rights, whether it's rights for women, all of those things were all part of one struggle.
Yeah, and, you know, the fact that one doesn't necessarily trump the other. You know, the saying around, unless we're all completely free, no one really is free.
Exactly.
And I imagine that comes through quite strongly. Now, I'm trying to place in my head what this production looks like. And in your statement, there's a line that stood out there. You say, think Hamilton and RuPaul's Drag Race. I'm a fan of both.
Okay.
And I struggle to place how on earth you would merge them.
Well,
but maybe in your own words, you'll be able to describe this.
You know, Simon loved disco. And when I was doing all my research, and he used to, they're actually very heartbreaking, these lists of the top 20. And I thought at first, oh, I'm going to make this disco opera. Yeah. But then I thought, no, it's a little out of fashion now. And I thought, what is actually happening in the LGBT plus community in South Africa? And it's this form of, it's a mixture of dance, of costume, of reimagining yourself to be anything you want to be. It's also got a fashion element, so you walk the runway. It's called voguing. Those of your viewership who know RuPaul will get that. And those who don't will be, I think, thrilled by it because it's something so special. So it's a mixture of voguing with voguing beats, combined with beautiful arias and all kinds of fantastic choruses. Often a lot of them are connected right into freedom songs. It's all of that, and it's a sort of mashup. But what I really wanted to do, and why that tagline of Hamilton and RuPaul is so important, is I'm wanting to reach a young audience who may never have ever thought they would go to an opera, but they like voguing, and they love that whole scene. Yeah. So it's to bring them together.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, there's an interest in this that's growing. I mean, Beyonce's latest album has got, you know, all kinds of, I think there are even explicit references, quite frankly, to voguing and the like. So there's clearly an atmosphere for a conversation to be had. Yes. And speaking of that, I'm sure there are very sobering issues that come forth in this production too, right? I mean, amongst many of them is, yes, South Africa lives in a country where, constitutionally speaking, there's great progress, but there's still a lot of work to be done on the ground, so to speak, about people who live in this intersection, right? People who are completely South African, who are black, and sometimes who are queer.
Yeah, absolutely right. What's on paper doesn't always transfer onto the reality. And of course, I don't have to already say that there is terrible violence still, hate crimes, hate speech. We have this, not just here, by the way, all over the world. Right. It's not just simply, oh, it's happening here. There is a rising, you know, the uprising of the right, let's say, the more right-wing, the more intolerant people all over the world, whether it's Poland, some places in America have had these terrible shootings at a gay club. It's going on all the time. Bullying, all of those things. And of course, this comes through very much, and we have a very beautiful song which sings about the road, you know, the long walk to freedom has not been reached yet, and it's a long walk. And it's to really actually say we have a lot to go still, even with this beautiful constitution.
Yeah. It sounds like it's a bit of a workshopped piece in some ways, and I'm wondering how much of the contributions made even by the actors are in some ways autobiographical, you know, people telling their own personal stories through this production?
Absolutely. You know, as I say, 3 years, 2 big workshops, interviewing people, singers. A lot of the performers, creators are from the LGBT plus community. They have told their stories. They're very connected to it. I'm working, in fact, with an extraordinary, incredible choreographer, Llewellyn Gooney. Llewellyn has been dealing with issues like this and in their work. The same Ricky Beadle-Blair, who is this extraordinary UK director who's come out to, has been really in the forefront of black queer rights in the UK. Activist role model has come into this also with very strong emotional connections to the work.
Right. Yeah. You know, you mentioned your hope, your wish that this resonates with younger audiences who wouldn't necessarily, I suppose, rock up to an opera performance. But I wonder how important you think it is for people who are not queer and in fact don't see themselves as allies to also be there.
Absolutely. The story is actually universal. It's, of course, it focuses on LGBT plus, right? But it has amazing stories. The heart of it is acceptance. So Dina Malindi, who is now an acting judge, was Simon's best friend in jail and stood up to Simon, to some of that stigma and prejudice that happened. So it's also about friendship, standing up for people that are different from you. The same, there's also a great love affair between Mina and, in fact, the lawyer, Caroline Heaton-Nichols. So there is beautiful stories. It's, you know, Professor Dr. Bev Ditzi, who was also a very great friend of Simon's at the time, and and in fact was very involved with starting Pride with Simon. And she says to me, when I first said to her, I think I want to make an opera like this crazy opera. And she said to me, oh my God, if Simon was alive today, he would be just so thrilled because his life was an opera.
Absolutely. The drama, the suspense, all the twists and turns. Look, it feels like a full circle moment. I mean, the Market Theatre is also such a historic place where so many great stories were told. So I wish you great success next week when this premieres. And I'm sure there are many people who are listening to our conversation can't wait to see it. So,
just hashtag Nkoli Vogue-Opera and they'll get everything they need about it.
Lovely. All right. Thank you so much for coming through. Phillip Miller, part of the production team for Nkoli, the Vogue-Opera, once again showing at the Market Theatre from next week. Thanks for popping by.
Thank you.